Hello, everyone. My name's Annalie, and I will be hosting your book launch this afternoon. Welcome to the Two Sisters and a Brain Tumour book launch. I'm a friend of Emily and Jasmine's from church, and this afternoon we're going to meet Emily and Jasmine. We're going to hear a bit about their book. We're going to hear an early reflection on the book and also hear an excerpt from the book. At the end of our time together, we're going to have a question and answer session. So if you have any questions for Emily or for Jasmine, then you can type them into the comments section on the Facebook live stream and we'll answer them towards the end of the launch. So let's begin by meeting the author. Hello, Emily.
Hello.
So you're the author of the memoir. But what does life look like for you as an author when you're not writing a book or attending book launches?
Attending book launches is a rare event. So in the other times, during term time, I'm busy studying. So I'm working towards my Master of Divinity at a Sydney Bible College. During the holidays, I work as a radiographer. And in the between times, I do a lot of reading. I maintain my author website and also my other website, which is called To Watch, a ministry for those with chronically ill loved ones.
Wow, that is a very busy life. I'm very glad that you still have time for writing. What's one thing that you're really excited for this memoir?
I guess I see this memoir as a celebration and a testimony of God's faithfulness and mercy. Often biographies and memoirs are written about a really big event in somebody's life. And while Jay having a brain tumour was and is still a big event, the memoir is mostly about the power of God's presence in the journey, in the small things, in the tiny niches of every day where most of life is lived.
That is so encouraging. And I'm really thankful that you've decided to share this story with us. As people are reading the memoir, what is one thing that you want them to feel?
That they are not alone. I've tried to be as honest as possible. And when you read the memoir, you'll see that my doubts, fears, and frustrations sit alongside my peace, joy, and confidence in God's presence. Life is messy, but God is there.
That is such a great message. Now we're going to meet the other sister. Hello, Jasmine.
Hello.
So it's safe to say that this book wouldn't be written without you, Jazz. But when you're not being written about, what does life look like for you?
Well, I am currently working full-time as an occupational therapist, so that does take up a lot of time. But in the other times when I get a chance, I enjoy catching up with friends, going on walks. I did enjoy going to the gym, but obviously not at the moment, and baking and reading as well.
That sounds great. And hopefully you can get back to the outdoors soon and lockdown will finish soon. You were spending a lot of time after spending all that time in the hospital as a patient. How do you feel now working as an OT in the hospital?
Well, because I've been on the receiving end of hospital care, I feel like I kind of understand what it's like to be the person in the bed, not being able to do the things they want to do. And I know how it feels to be sick and helpless and unsure about the future. And I feel like this has helped me to be more compassionate and understanding and connect with my patients in a bit of a different way.
That's really special. So what do you hope that people will take away from this memoir?
Well, obviously this memoir details a really tough time in my life. So I hope people will be able to see how God works in hard times and how he uses all things for good, even brain tumours.
Wow, what an incredible perspective. I'm so excited to get my hands on this book and read this book. Now, I go to church with Emily and Jasmine, and I remember in 2015 when Jasmine was diagnosed with a brain tumour, She had to have immediate brain surgery, followed by 3 months in hospital and 11 operations. So it not only impacted the Moritz family, but it also had a really big impact on our church family. So now we're going to hear Toby, who is one of the members of our church family, and he's going to read for us a reflection on the memoir that is written by one of the pastoral couples from our church that were there at the time when Jasmine was in hospital. So they couldn't be here today, but Toby is now going to read for us their reflection.
Having read the manuscript of this book, we were left with a sense of how little did we know. I mean, we knew a lot. We were the first couple outside of their family who were told about Jasmine's brain tumour. Emily often talked to us during those days at a heart level. Yet despite this closeness, it struck us that as onlookers to suffering, we only often see the highlights or the lowlights, as the case is. We grieve at hearing another operation was unsuccessful, but we don't see the daily grind. It's hidden by our busy lives that continue as normal, while our friends struggle through the distressing reality of relentless travel, hours in hospital, and constant worry. In theory, we know that people shouldn't suffer alone, but in practice, it's hard to even imagine what the road of serious illness looks like, and then how to come alongside these sufferers and walk through it with them as a community. This is where Emily's book is a gift. Our prayer is that it shines a light into what the grind of struggling with illness looks like, and then gives us a clearer picture of how we can love and support others through times like this. And for those of us who find ourselves hidden for days on end behind hospital walls, our prayer is that it will give us the courage to reach out and not suffer alone. Second, we think this book gives us a glimpse into the transformation that God brings through trials. Emily beautifully depicts two sisters growing closer to each other and closer to God. As their church community, our journey with the Moritz family transformed us too. It stands out to us as the single most moving season that our church walked through together during our 10 years of ministry there. It's easy to say that we trust in an all-powerful God, but really when it comes to illness, our functional trust seems to rest more on an all-powerful health system. The doctors said they could remove the tumour without too much risk, and so we prayed and hoped that the doctors could do their job well. But as operation after operation failed, we began to realise that our functional hope was failing us. The doctors were stumped, and it left us feeling vulnerable. What if they can't fix it? What if God doesn't answer our prayers the way we want? How can it be good for Jasmine to be on her back in hospital for weeks on end? And in our vulnerability, we turn to prayer, deep, heartfelt prayer. We learn to lean on the only one who has control in these situations. The journey we travelled was small compared to the one the Moritz family travelled. Looking back, there are lots of places where we could have walked with them better. But we're thankful that Jesus designed his church to be a place where we both suffer alongside each other and grow together. He works everything for good for all his people at the same time. There is richness in not travelling alone. For those struggling with illness, this is clear. But there's also richness for those of us standing alongside the sufferer, supporting them along the way. We pray this book gives us all courage to walk together through suffering, to have courage to reach out if we are suffering. Walking together makes everyone vulnerable, but it also makes us ready to receive together the transforming grace of Jesus.
Thank you so much for reading that for us, Toby, and also for those that wrote it for us. It's so great how God is still using this brain tumour, as awful as it was, for his glory. Now, just a reminder, if you have any questions for Emily or for Jasmine, you can put them in the chat on the Facebook live stream and we'll answer them shortly. But right now, Emily is going to read an excerpt from her book for us. So enjoy.
Chapter 24, Let the Road Be Rough and Dreary. I feel like a portable farmer's market. I suspect it's something to do with the boxes of vegetables and bags of fruit cluttering my car. They are all Jasmine's craving at the moment. At least they're not likely to leak across my upholstery and down my leg. That butter chicken was not worth it. I flip the indicator and sit at the roundabout, waiting for an opening. Come on, there's nothing worse than lukewarm grapes. Here we go. I twist the steering wheel and negotiate the traffic, turning into a narrow road. I ease down on the brakes. A traffic jam. I stare at the stationary grey car in front of me. I'm so close to the hospital. It would be quicker to walk. The heat belting through the windows intensifies as I idle. Someone really ought to plant some trees along here for some shade. Smash! I plunge my foot on the brake, only to find it's already down as far as it will go. But why am I moving? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I've stopped now. What happened? Breathe. Don't cry. Why is the car in front of me so close? What was that crunching sound? What was that crunching sound? Breathe. Someone's hit me. I sag against the car seat, and I've hit someone else. Breathe. Handbrake. Park. Engine off. Silence. The grapes are definitely going to pickle. They'll taste heavy and sour and off, and I'll have to... How bad was the crash? It feels bad. It feels really bad. My stomach returns with a lurch. No time to be sick. I turn my head one way, then the other. No pain. Good. This is good. I'm not hurt. That's the main thing, right? What are all those cars doing? Why all the flashing headlights? Oh, lights. I slam my hand down on the dash. My hazard lights blink on. I'm in the middle of the road. I test my ignition. It grumbles with promise, so I hit the indicator. Creep, creep. If I pull over here, can cars get past? Just. Done. Where's my phone? Keys. I push the door and stagger out. I can walk. Of course you can walk, Emily. It wasn't a head-on crash. Probably felt worse than it actually was. These things always do. Or so they say. I've never had a car accident. I see the grey car from in front parked by the roadside. Where is the car which hit me? Goodness, it must be that one. I'm surprised it was able to pull over. A front like that, all folded and well mashed. Fear creeps down my throat. I swallow. I haven't even checked my own car. It's even worse. The back is bent up like a crinkled chip. The boot door is ajar. I push it down. It bounces straight back up. I move to the bonnet. My poor, poor car. You were once so car-shaped. Now you look like a can someone used to play street soccer, mercilessly. How am I going to get to the hospital? I need photos, details, number plates. A sheet of calmness falls over me. I'm not injured. Thank you, Lord. I can do this. I walk towards the grey car. I can do this one step at a time. Hi. Hey. The windows are down. There's an old Italian-looking couple inside. What happened? The man leans out, arm draped over the windowsill. Grey moustache, grizzled hair. The car behind crashed into mine and I got pushed into you. That woman? He twists to point behind and then begins talking to his wife in urgent undertones. I look over my shoulder and see a white woman pacing by the side of the road near the smashed car. She's on her phone. I think so. The Italian man opens his door. Look, there's barely a scratch on our car. We'll get her insurer and clear off. We've got somewhere to be. So do I. I should ring Jasmine to tell her I'm going to be late. But how late? Can I even drive my car the rest of the way? We're only 15 minutes from the hospital. No, I can't ring her. She'll be upset. Okay, sure. The other driver is still on her phone, too far away to hear us. He scowls in her direction. She must have come flying around the roundabout and not realize we're all banked up. I'm going to go talk to her. I watch as he walks up, phone in hand. She ends her call. They talk and gesture and type on their phones. Then the man returns. His wife is craning her neck out of the car door. We're going. He pauses. Should get your rego. Oh, what is it? I must look like an idiot. Sorry, I've only had the car 3 months. I'll have to check. Don't worry, I'll just take a picture. He snaps my poor battered car with his phone. You all right? Yeah. They drive away. Am I all right? I guess I have to be. Excuse me. I walk to where the woman is still gripping her phone like a lifeline. We should, turn back time, pretend nothing happened, exchange details. She jerks around. Dark hair, a smart sort of jacket, sunglasses, most importantly, middle-aged, an adult. Finally, someone to tell me what happens next. I don't know what happened, she wails. I was just driving and then I don't know what happened. I do. You drove into my car and then I got pushed into the other car, the grey one. I was on my way to the hospital, she's crying. I had an appointment and I was so stressed and now this happens. I was going to the hospital too. Am I comforting or informing? A bit of both. My sister's in the children's. Oh, she shatters into fresh tears. Oh, that's worse. I don't know what happened. I just don't know. I'm sorry. I give up hope that she'll be the one taking charge. Suddenly it doesn't matter. She looks so desolate, so helpless. It's going to be okay. I step forward and give her a light hug. It's okay. Please stop crying. It's not your fault. Well, it is actually. I pat her microfiber shoulder. But it could happen to anyone. It's easy to do. I pull away. Thank you, sweetie. Oh, sweetie, sorry, I should be, she sniffs, I should be hugging you. It's okay, I repeat. Please believe me. I smile. Can I pray for you? It's all I have to offer. I close my eyes before she can reply. Dear Lord, thank you for keeping us safe and please help everything else to go smoothly. Please be our comfort and be with us. Amen. Bless you, bless you. She's crying again. I swallow. I'm Emily, by the way.
Wow, what a gripping story. Who knew that there would be the story of a car accident in what is already a quite tumultuous story? But don't worry, the cliffhanger is resolved. Emily does in fact make it to the hospital. And from there on, her and Jasmine journey together as they grapple with the realities of the illness and what it means to be sisters and trust God when their world has been turned upside down. I'm so excited. I know my copy is in the mail and I can't wait to get my hands on it because it is a story that is worth telling. So now we have the opportunity to ask Emily and Jasmine some questions. So I'll just add them here. So, oh, sorry, Toby. There we go.
It's all right, Toby can answer my questions for me.
Okay, so we have some questions on the Facebook stream. So if you have any other questions, feel free just to chuck them up. So one of the questions we have is, Emily, how did you decide what parts of your journey to include and exclude?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think part of the problem with someone being in hospital is that often there's a lot of repetition, right? 11 surgeries, a lot of time in recovery, a lot of car journeys, a lot of prayers. So during that time, I kept two journals, and so they helped me, like when I knew that there was, when I talked about one time there, I thought, oh, okay, I can include that for like a recovery moment and that sort of stuff. So that was really helpful. I also tried to think about what my themes were. So my thing, like when you tell a story, I could tell everything, but it would probably be really boring and patchworky. So I thought, well, my themes, like the things that stood out to me when I looked back at that time, was God's presence, was our journey as sisters, and was our journey in a wider community. So I tried to pick events that showed that. Good question.
Okay, there's another question in the chat. So in your journal, did you record the real-time details, or did you have to talk to a lot of other people to fill in gaps in your memory and things like that?
Yeah, so mostly I recorded quite a few things. Most of my thoughts from the journal. and different things, like specific funny comments that Jasmine made, like where she was coming out of anesthetic, I wrote down in the journal, or specific comments other people made that really touched me, I wrote down. But a lot of that time was sort of very vivid in my memory, keeping in mind that I first wrote the memoir in 2018. And so that was a lot closer to 2015 than today. So that was helpful as well.
Yeah. Another question. If you know someone that is going through this sort of thing right now, how helpful do you think that this book would be, or should you wait a little while because I guess it's touching on a pretty raw issue for some people?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I had someone in the early stages who was going to read the book and provide me with a review mention that it was too tough for them at this point in time to read, which I completely understand. I think, and everyone, I think, you know for yourself if that's something that you want to engage with. I know I often don't read myself anymore after Jasmine and after struggles my mum has had. I'm not much of a fan of reading medical books of other people suffering. I know my sister, but my sister's the opposite. So if you speak to Jasmine, she loves reading what we call sick lit. And so, yeah, it's hard to know. There's not, I would say this book, like I think I mentioned before, it's a story of the small moments. And it's the story of little interactions. So I wouldn't say it's traumatic, but it could be.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I think that it'll be really helpful for people who are supporting those who are, I think that's mainly your intended audience, right?
Yeah, everyone. I think,
I'm
sure you can always give it a go, put it down and pick it up again later. It's the sort of book that I wish I'd read before and during, I think. I think it would have helped me, but, Yeah,
thanks. Jasmine, there's a question for you. How do you feel about being the subject of a memoir?
Well, not gonna lie, it is a little bit weird. And it is a bit I guess confronting that like lots of people are gonna read a very like personal time. But I think just because it was such a hard time and it wasn't nice obviously, but if God can use this memoir to help other people going through a similar time, I think the discomfort of people reading it will be worth it. And of course, I worked with Emily and she asked me what parts that I didn't want to include and what parts I did want to include. So I had the final say as well. So don't worry, you're not reading anything that I'm like, oh my gosh, don't read it. So I'm happy with the final copy, and I just hope that it can be used to help other people, because then it kind of makes all the hard times a little bit more worth it. Yeah,
I remember chatting with you two very close to the putting it in for publishing, and there was still a bit of umming and ahhing right up to the end, I think, about what would be included. So thank you, Jasmine, for sharing, for letting Emily share your story with us. Okay, another question. How did you feel about sharing personal family stories to the public? Were there any boundaries that you had agreed on what you shared or didn't share?
Who's that question addressed to? Both of us? Or?
Yeah, I guess maybe how did you approach your family to say, I want to write about you?
Yeah, it was, it's crazy. Like Jasmine said, like my family has read this book so many times, and they've always had the final say in things, or if there's things we're not sure about, or like, we've just discussed it. I think it's been quite collaborative, which has been not always easy at times, but worth it. And good for all of us. When I first wrote the book, I wrote it and I prayed a lot about it. I felt it was something that I should write, but I wasn't sure if it would ever get published, because I thought Jasmine could quite easily, and it would be quite normal for her to be like, no thanks.
Jasmine, how did you feel about the boundaries? Did you feel like you had to at the beginning be like, you can't ever say that? Or was it kind of as you went along, you were like, not really sure?
Yeah, I guess the first time I read it, it hadn't been like put in for publishing, and publishing kind of was a very distant dream of Emily's, that I was like, as if that's going to happen, Emily. Sorry, Emily. It did happen. But as we realized, like, oh my goodness, it's actually going to be published, I kind of went back through it and made sure that things I didn't really want in, or things that were a bit personal, weren't included. And Emily very graciously had to kind of rearrange chapters and things like that. But yeah, of course, because it is a personal story, it is a little bit scary that people are going to be reading it. But it's the final copy is that we're all happy with it, and we all really liked it. The whole family has been like, we're gripped and we want to know what happens in the end, even though I am the ending. So yeah, it's all put together nicely now, and we're all happy with it. Yeah, I don't know if that answers it, but
yeah. So I mean, it is good to know that it does have a happy ending, because Jasmine, you are here with us, and that's really exciting. There is a question for Jasmine. Did you get to read the book along the way, or did Emily kind of say, you can't read it until I'm finished?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think from memory, and Emily can correct me if I'm wrong, I think I read the first 3 chapters, and then Emily was working on editing the other parts. Or something along those lines. But I remember saying to Emily, like, oh my goodness, can you please send me the next section, because I'm dying to know what happens. But yeah, I think I didn't read it until it was a little bit more polished. There's probably been like 100 versions. So I read a first one ages ago, and that was already a kind of a polished version at that stage. And then maybe months later, I read another one and another one. So yeah, it was kind of all over the place in that way, but I read multiple versions of it, if that makes sense.
That's hilarious.
It really does.
Because I don't remember sending you those first 3 chapters, because I know I wrote the first draft in like 3 weeks in this crazy, I only had this time and this time only. But yeah, I must have sent you the first 3 chapters, and then yeah.
This kind of links into another question. Emily, how do you structure your week to write a book on top of studying and work and everything? Or you just smash it out?
Yeah, I'm more of a smashing it out sort of person, but like I have everything prepared beforehand. So when I go to write, I know exactly what I'm writing, and then I just smash it out. I think it came at an interesting point in my life. So I just ended full-time work. My mum had just been diagnosed with cancer and was about to undergo chemo. And so I knew I had this time only, because I knew everything that happened from Jasmine, I'd have all these fresh memories of an intense time. And I sort of thought, if I'm going to write it down and do justice to it, I have to do it now. And so it happened.
Yeah. Okay, another question. Maybe one tip from both of you. What is a tip that you would give to people at church for when friends at church are going through something like this? So maybe what is one tip that you would give people?
Emily, you can go first.
I was going to say you can go first. I think don't assume they don't want to talk about it, because they might want to talk about it, and they also might not want to talk about it right now, but they might want to talk about it later. So there's never like a blanket, you know, like I feel it myself. I often think, oh, someone's gone through a tough time, they're not going to want to talk about it now, but keep asking if they want to talk about it, and don't be afraid to ask, because I think sometimes it feels like the doors are shut and you can't bring this up because you don't want to make people sad.
Yeah. Thanks. That's really helpful. Jasmine, do you have a tip?
Yeah, I would agree with Emily. And maybe I'm also thinking, don't assume that you know how someone is feeling. You might feel, oh, you must be feeling so upset right now, or something like that. And they might actually be having a great day and not be feeling too bad at all, or vice versa. So yeah, and just being there for them, and yeah, and I think maybe this is a second tip, or maybe not, but just I think just being there for them and helping them in the way that they want to be helped or need to be helped. Which is what a lot of people did anyway. And I think we have like such a supportive church community, and I'm so thankful for them.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Another question is, what is a highlight and a low light of time in hospital? Or do we have to just buy the book and read it to find out? Buy the book. Okay, that's the answer. Buy the book and you will find out all the highlights and all the lowlights. Okay, how did the idea to write and eventually publish the memoir first transpire, Em?
I write this more in detail on my website, so a bit of a plug there underneath answering why did I write a memoir.
Yeah.
But it's quite a convoluted pathway to that. But I think when I was younger, my mum has been sick all my life, and as a teenager, I would be like, God, like if you heal her, I will never stop talking about it. If you perform a miracle, I will go around to every person and write a book and make sure you are so glorified. So can you please heal her? And so, yeah, when Jasmine, my mum wasn't healed, but my sister was. And so I remembered that. And I thought, God, is this something you'd like me to do? Would you like me to write this book? And I just felt that even if it was just for our family, it's worth having a testament of what God's done, worth having a physical reminder, because life moves on and it's so easy not to stop, reflect, celebrate and rejoice.
Yeah. So again, good plug for your website. There's heaps that Emily's written about writing on her website, emilyjmaritz.com. So you can go in, some of the questions will be answered there. We might just take a couple more questions. Emily, and did you get to like design and choose the color of the cover? And also, is teal your favorite color? And also related to the cover, have you decided which sister is which? Or is this an ongoing argument?
They're really great questions. So I'll try and answer them in order. So the publisher organises book cover, but I got some say in it. So I saw early versions and made suggestions. And I actually did suggest the colour teal because it's the New South Wales Allied Health colour. And both me and Jasmine are Allied Health trained. So we thought that would be appropriate. And as I had someone else ask also about which sister was which. Jasmine, do you have an answer?
Look, Emily is typically the more moody one. She listens to sad violin music for fun. So she's the one like sitting with the hood on. And I'm like the one with the hair blowing in the wind, having a good time.
Look, she's not wrong.
Yeah, that's probably what I would have guessed anyway. That's amazing. And there was also a question, are you wearing teal to match the book, or is it just a happy coincidence?
Jasmine's wearing teal because I told her to.
Look, at the practice last week, I was incidentally wearing this shirt and Emily was like, oh my goodness, you have to wear that next week. So here it is. And I haven't washed it since.
Yeah. Another question about writing. Did you, do different members of the family remember things differently? So did you have arguments about that's not what happened?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy how fluid memory is. And also because Jasmine spent a lot of the time under anesthetic, and that doesn't do great things for your memory. And it was just also a very highly stressful period. So most of the time, yeah, we had some arguments. We discussed things. Some things we negotiated. Some things I was like, look, here's evidence that this is how it was. And some things I was like, there's no evidence, but it's my memoir and I remember this.
Okay, well, yeah, if you have any more questions about that, you can fight it out with Em and Jazz. So question for Jasmine, did you discover more about Em's vulnerabilities and experience whilst caring for you after reading the book? So did you learn more about her and the things that she went through while reading And yeah, were there new things that you kind of learned through reading the memoir?
Yeah, definitely. I think because obviously I was the one in hospital, I was thinking about myself, because I know everything was happening to me, and I didn't really think so much like how much it took out of everyone around me's life and how much it impacted everyone. So reading the book, it really made me see, how much, I know, it turned Emily's life completely upside down, and it made me just amazed that because she was in her final semester of uni when this happened. So I was just like amazed that she managed to complete uni and pass all her exams while seeing me almost every day. So yeah, it was definitely an eye opener to read it through Emily's point of view. And it just made me think that just one person can impact like so many people's lives in their everyday life, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. Maybe one of the last questions. What is next for you in your author journey?
Yeah, hopefully more books. I mean, obviously I write because I love writing, so I would love to write more books. You'll just have to sign up to my website to be kept in the loop about that. But another plug.
Yeah, there's a few. Thanks, Em. There's a few more questions on the chat, but I think go to Emily's website because I feel like she will answer a lot of them on her website. But the last and most important question I'm actually going to answer for you now. So thank you so much, Emily and Jasmine, for answering all those questions. It's been really cool to hear more about your journeys. So, okay. So the last question is, where can you get the book? So, mine is in the mail as we speak, and I've been checking every day, but it hasn't arrived yet. So, you also can buy online. You can buy from the Wandering Bookseller. You can get it from the Reformers Bookshop, Koorong, Amazon, Book Depository. Heaps of the online bookshops have it. So you can get it delivered right to your door in lockdown. You can also buy in Kindle format on Amazon. And we're going to put links to all of these on the event page. Emily's author Facebook page and Emily's website, which is emilyjmoritz.com. You can also go there to source the book. So if you would like a signed copy, you can get one direct from Emily for $25 plus postage. Or if you see Jasmine or Emily every day, they can pass it on in a COVID safe way. So we're going to post all these details in the comments and in the on the website, and then also on the Facebook page. Also, once you have finished enjoying the book, please leave Emily an amazing review on either Goodreads or Amazon or any of your other book websites. So you can also support Emily by posting a picture of the book onto your social media accounts. You can tell your friends and family about it. You can buy copies for your friends for Christmas or as a surprise lockdown gift, because we're going to be here for a while, and what better thing to do than to read a local author. And so as an unknown Australian author, this is the main way that M's story is going to get out into the world, is by us sharing on social media and by buying it and recommending it to people. So please do this, and what you do write and post really makes a difference for Em. And I'm really excited for this story to be out in the world. If you've got any more questions about contacting Emily, we'll put all the details in the Facebook page, and you can contact her via her YouTube, by her Instagram or Facebook account. And if you missed any of this live stream, or you want to send it to friends or family who couldn't make it, Emily is going to upload the event to YouTube tomorrow, so then you can rewatch it or send it on to people who missed it. And Em's going to add a link to that on her author page and her Facebook page. Now Jasmine is going to pray for us, and then Emily's going to say some final words. And so, again, you can sign up to Emily's things, and thank you so much for being with us today. Okay, over to you, Jasmine.
Okay, let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for today, and thank you for the book launch that we could celebrate. Thank you that everything went smoothly. And I thank you that you gave Emily the passion and the skill to write this book. And I pray that you will use it to bless many people and bring people one step closer to you. Thank you so much for everything that you give us. And most importantly, thank you for Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it certainly took a lot of people to raise this book. Thank you firstly to Jay and my parents for your courage and your honesty throughout the journey. Because it's my memoir, it's about my journey, but they had their own journeys and struggles during this time. Jasmine, thank you for letting me tell your story, the dark moments as well as the hilarious ones. I feel privileged to have been able to walk beside you. You taught me so much over those 3 months and the many afterward. Your example of overwhelming courage and perseverance, of joy and facing each day as it comes has changed me forever and will continue to do so. I would be and am much less without you. I love you so much. Next, thank you to all who read first and not so first drafts and convinced me that this story was worth sharing. Thank you to Elizabeth Chapman at Dole Publishing, without whose big dreams and tireless efforts this book would not be here today. Thank you to my church family for your support during those 3 months while Jay was in hospital, and all the others who gathered around to support us. It meant so much. Thank you to Anna Lee for joyfully volunteering to MC before I even thought to ask. Thank you to Gav, whose efforts behind the scenes turned the part of this launch which terrified me, aka the technology, into a success. Thank you to my friends for your heartfelt words, and to Toby for reading them out and offering encouragement and suggestions during the practices. Most of all, thank you to my God who gave me Jay, my sister, twice over. I am forever grateful and can't wait to see what the future will bring. And a very final thank you to all of you who took the time out of your busy lives to sit in front of a computer screen and celebrate with me and help launch this book. I've been continually humbled by the excitement so many of you expressed. When I asked Jay what gave her the courage to let me share this story, she told me that if it helped one person, it would be worth it. And I agree. This story was Jay's, this book was mine, and now we give it over to you. How far it goes is in your hands, but I pray that it may have a lasting impact on many lives. Thank you.